Hey everybody, it's Brian Asbury, and I just wanted to welcome you to today's episode. If you could, like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue to grow the developmentally speaking brand.
Today, my guest is former Divas champion. She's ranked top 50 female superstars of all time and the winner of NXT Season 3. You may remember her as Caitlyn in the WWE. Celeste, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. That was a great intro. Super excited to be here and chat with you. So thanks for having me. And I think there's so many things to chat about. So I'm excited to have a great interview and have a great episode.
Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about your background. What drew you to fitness and what made you want to start competing at such a young age?
Oh man. I played a ton of sports growing up. I was always it really shaped me. Playing team sports really shaped me a lot as a kid. It gave me a lot of structure and discipline, showed me a lot about who I am. And so when I got into high school, I ran track, I played soccer, played club soccer, and I had a track coach who, her name's Yolanda Beasley. She will forever have this huge impression on me, and she was like jacked, like super jacked, ripped, and I had like never seen that before. And this was before like social media, it was like I think it was like before MySpace or around MySpace time. Like Facebook has just come out, and so you really couldn't see, like there wasn't a lot of these opportunities to see communities of people that were doing things that interested me, like using myself as an example. I didn't know where to find people that were really interested in the same things that I was, in terms of like strength and physical aesthetics and bodybuilding and fitness. So when I saw her, she really took me under her wing. She helped me a lot in track, and then she taught me how to lift weights. And so she would even like take me after school to go to Gold's Gym, and she was like really amazing. And I got very, very interested in that. And I had like my own set of weights in my room when I was like 14. I loved it so much. And then when I graduated high school, I did my first fitness competition. I did a figure competition when I had just turned 19, and I did a lot of it myself. Like I didn't know a ton about the sport or all the things that go into it, just like anybody starting anything. And like I didn't place, but I got a coach and like a trainer and stuff. And then I came back a year later and did the same show in one class. So I was like, I love this. So it's just like fitness in general, and especially like the competing aspect, really helped just refine me as a person. And I carry a lot of those strengths and disciplines that I learned then still today. So really a huge impact on me.
So after that initial time, you just continued to go, and then did you get into the modeling aspect after you won your competition, or were you doing that all at the same time?
Yeah, I was just trying to like really try to make a career out of what I was doing. And I was so young, I really didn't know what that looked like, or I didn't have all the pieces to that, but I knew I loved it, and it really inspired me and kept me very passionate about life. And I was just really, when you're 21, 22, you're just learning who you are. I think you're always learning who you are. I'm 37 now, and I have a much deeper understanding of who I am now versus when I was like 21. But I knew it was like calling me, right? Like I was like trying to answer a call, and to like really step into something that I felt passionate about. So I was trying to like work with companies, get sponsorships, and trying different supplements and stuff like that, all the things really involved in the whole fitness world and industry. And I just had a lot of fun. I met a lot of really cool people. I still have people in my life that I met during that time frame. But what I found with competing is that I would think I was looking for it to fulfill something
Hmm.
in me that it wasn't actually fulfilling. Like, and so I kept pursuing it, and then either being disappointed in the overall process or outcome, or disappointed with myself and not feeling like really connected and fulfilled by it. So I competed for, I would say, like 3 years, and then I was like too muscular for figure competition, so I was going to step into doing like natural bodybuilding.
Hmm.
And that was kind of scary because like at that time, like my idea was to really like reform and shape the way that people perceive female bodybuilders, because like I always had a lot of muscle, I always worked out, But I think that a lot of people associated that with like, oh, like big steroids, like, very masculine looking. And I wanted to kind of reshape that, but I was really nervous about the whole process. And as I was in the midst of training for my first natural bodybuilding show, I met somebody in the fitness industry who had like a spray tan company, and my friend and I actually had a spray tan company too. We rented like a little room out of the gym we were at, and we would spray tan people. And so we made this cool connection. And this guy, he used to be in the developmental program for WWE. So he was like in the, I think it was like still FCW at that time,
Hmm.
and he was only he had like been like kind of like a star in the arena football world. He got signed to FCW, and then he never really made it to the main roster. But in that time period, he was there, and when he left, he was trying to come back as a someone that like a talent scout, someone that was bringing talent in.
Hmm.
And so he was like, I have a connection for you. And so me and my friend that were doing we were both doing fitness competitions and both doing the spray tan business together. We had a lot of the same interests. We're like, yes. Like, so we both wrote a bio and got pictures together and gave them to this guy and sent him in. And WWE flew us out for a tryout, like relatively quick after we had submitted like our little, information about ourselves. And so that tryout was so huge for me, and I felt like it was this like huge opportunity to take the next step in my career, because I was like,
Hmm.
not finding that full fulfillment in competing, and wasn't really sure what I was doing anyways, like in terms of my career and my life. So I was like, oh, this is it, this is the next thing for me. And I'm sure it's the same now as it was then, but like when you go to try out, like you're there for 5 days, and they take you through it like you're a part of the school, you're a part of the program. And like I didn't have any wrestling experience. I had never even taken a bump. Like I didn't know really a lot about it, but I knew that it was very attractive to me in terms of like all the elements that were required
Hmm.
to be somebody in the ring, in terms of like presence and being able to speak and just charisma and all that. And high energy. So I felt like very called to it, even though I didn't have experience. And like the first day, I, probably took a 50 to 100 bumps, and I was like, oh my God. And like, I loved it, and it hurt so bad, but I loved it so much. I was like, this is awesome. And my friend was like, I hate this. I hate this. So she was like, this is not for me. And I respect her so much, because she just knew. She was like, I'm not going to like this. So she went home, and I was like, I'm staying. I love this. Like, this is the coolest shit ever. Like, so it was this whole big, massive shift in my life that happened like that when I
Hmm.
got to try out for WWE, and I was 23 at that time.
Were you a wrestling fan growing up, or was it just something you were familiar with?
A little bit. My brother and I used to watch like Vader and
Hmm.
like Goldberg. They had a couple people that I knew of in terms of like pro wrestling in general, but I never like had a parent or grandparent that really loved it. Like I never had it really introduced to me in my life like that as a kid. But I was really drawn to it for the physical aspect of it, because I knew I was really strong and capable, and I felt like it was something that I had the courage for,
Hmm.
something that I was just like waiting for something that felt right to where I'd be like, I could do this. And so it was kind of this like, I've always had this really fearless mentality when it comes to things that are scary. Like I know I'll just figure it out as I go, but I'm always nervous through the process, and like I go through all the things in my head. But that's like one thing that I can say that nobody could ever take away from me, is that will, to do something, to pursue something that seems difficult or so far fetched, or so different than what my family thinks is normal or what I think is normal.
Hmm.
And going through that process and that time in my life really, really showed me that about who I am. And so even just that, if I had never had the career that I had with WWE, that part would have been so massive for me in terms of like just shaping who I am. So I'm always like grateful for the little pieces that
Hmm.
happened along the way.
Now, when you did your tryout, did it feel like they were truly trying to see if this is what you wanted to do? Like, were they pushing you per se?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I felt. I felt like, you know, the trainers there, Norman Smiley, Dr. Tom, Steve Kern, they, they all have their own ways of teaching and coaching and their own relationship with wrestling and what that is for them. And, obviously there's like pain and stuff involved in that, like in terms of like maybe career or certain aspects of how their careers turned out. But you can always sense like the passion
Hmm.
for what they do, like the true desire to want to teach and educate the art form of wrestling. And I feel like I could always see that and appreciate that. And yeah, there were times where it's like you can see that they like, they're messing with you to see how far you'll push yourself or
Hmm.
how bad you really want it. And I like, it's just part of my nature to step up to that. And I like that. I like being pushed in that way. So I always felt like there was a lot of passion in terms of the way that the trainers there at that time, the way that they felt about wrestling, how it shaped them, how it showed them who they were, and really feeling that desire coming through for somebody else. Like, if this
Hmm.
is for you, I want you to know how to do it. I want you to be able to understand what it is, to have the mental fortitude, the emotional fortitude, to be able to push through the things that are really hard in the process of learning all of this, because there's so many pieces to it and I had no idea, like just really the art form of pro wrestling. Like, I just, you only see what you see from a television screen,
Hmm.
and you don't really understand every aspect that goes into it, the timing, the cameras, the emotions of the storytelling, like every single part of it. So I really felt inspired, very, very inspired my first like day or two there, even though it really kicked my ass. Like, like feeling like you got in a car accident the next day after taking a bunch of bumps. But I loved it. It like activated something in me. I was like, yes, it was cool.
So after your tryout, how long after that did they give you your developmental deal?
It was pretty fast. I remember when I got the call too. I want to say it was like less than a month of time. I was training at the gym. I was like, I really literally remember what cardio machine I was on, like, and I got the call and I answered, and they told me I was hired, and then that, and that it just happened so fast. Like, it was my timeline to figure out how to move out there and all that stuff. So um, it was like one of those things where I'm like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I have to make this happen. And the next chance I got, I drove to Florida from Texas. I love road trips. I took my mom with me, and we just started looking for places to live. And yeah, it was all so fast. And I was 23, and I was born and raised in Greater Houston area,
Hmm.
and I had never lived outside of that. I had traveled a little bit for like club soccer and a couple things like that. And then I had lived in San Marcos, for a couple months too. But other than that, I was always like in Houston. So it was a massive change, like uprooting myself from family, friends, like everything I had really known, in terms of lifestyle and just everything. And I had a very serious boyfriend at the time that I lived with. And so I just was like, I'm going to do this. And like he had a plan to eventually get a job and move down there too. And it ended up not working out, but there was like nothing that was going to stop me. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this. So it all happened. Like, I would say from the time I tried out to when I actually moved down there and started training was probably like 2 months. Like, it was really fast.
Very, very quick. And when you
Yeah.
got down there and you signed, and what was your initial thoughts of what the developmental system was? Because this is pre NXT. This is
Right. Man,
warehouse on Del Mabry.
down Mabry, my God. Yeah, it was wild because, and I'll always feel this way. Like, I have so much respect for, the trainers there, the process there, all the talent that went through there. Um, but it was really wild to see because on one hand you see this massive TV production. WWE has so many shows and so many different things they do and partnerships and merchandise, and you see it everywhere. And then to be on the inside and see like this little school with 3 rings, like that, to be like, I can't believe that this is the beginning, this is the first step. But like, I totally respected it and I understood, like, if I want this, I have to do every part of it, and in the way that in the way that it comes. And I was like, all right, I'm down, whatever. But it was the type of thing where, like, like when I got there, it was me, AJ, Maxine, Jamie Keys, Oksana, uh, Naomi, and then Alicia Fox's sister, Christina. So there was
Hmm.
like 7 or 8 of us, and plus me. So there's 8 of us. And me and Christina Crawford were new. And so there's 8 of us in the bathroom at a time getting, when we had shows there, we had to get ready for something. And if all of us or more than like 4 of us had a curling iron plugged in, all the lights would go and stuff like that. And sometimes it'd be really hot training in there. But it was just like, it, I am so glad that it was like that for me for that time, because I was
Mhm.
just like, I was just like, I don't care. Like, and it's not even like I'm talking shit about it. It's just surprising that that was a developmental
Mhm.
process for such a massive company with so much influence. But I think that it's really a part of it, you know. But I was a little bit shocked, but I was so down for it, you know. Like I'll train in a like an old school warehouse gym. Like I don't care, you know. It's like it's just part of the process. So, but it was very surprising to me for sure.
When you got there, did they have any initial plans as your time went on? Because you weren't in developmental very long before you were on national television, right?
It was wild. Like so okay, so season 2 of NXT had just ended and it was still like the reality show and it was like the guys the first 2 seasons
Hmm.
and then the, the third season was women, but it was this kind of like hushed vibe. Like I didn't even know about it and I was signed. Like I didn't even when I got there and I was there for a couple weeks getting to know the girls and getting to know the schedule and all that and they all knew like it was AJ Oksana uh Naomi, Maxine, and Jamie Keys, and they were all going to be all part of it. And then they had this other girl that they were bringing in, and I had no idea about any of this. They finally told me, like I think a week or two before the show was going to debut live, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is so cool!" But it was kind of like, "Damn, everything's changing because these girls are going to go on the road, and it's just going to be me and Christina Crawford here, just 2 girls." So I was like, it was a lot of change once I learned about what was happening. And I still didn't really understand it that much. Like I didn't really know the process of going on the road and what that looked like and how often you're back and all that. So I was just like really learning everything as I went. And then I don't remember quite how it happened, but like all the girls had to come to the school for something. And this is pre-debut of NXT season 3. And I think they had started to advertise it on television, like alluding to the season of women.
Hmm.
And so they hired this the best way to describe it is like she was a draw for the show. She was like this woman who was 6'8". Her name was Lindsay. This like giant woman to be like this other element in the show to really get people interested in it, to create a lot of hype. And she was so tall, like she would play into the gimmick, right? Like she would wear huge heels and she had like really big boobs. And like my height, I'm 5'5", so like we all hug each other. So I'd go give her a hug, and her boobs would like sit on the top of my head. She was so tall. I was like, I've never experienced anything like this. And so I was like, that's cool. And so when I went to the ring that day, like we were all just helping and working with her in ring and making sure that she was going to be good to go on the show. She had been wrestling already, but she had never worked with any of us. And so we just wanted to make sure that we could work with her. And I say we, even though I wasn't part of the show, I was still part of the group with training and stuff at the school. So so the show debuted. So NXT debuted on a Tuesday live on SmackDown. So on a Thursday or a Friday, I think it was a Thursday, maybe a Friday, I got a call from, this is like the days before the show's going to debut. I get a call from Johnny Ace, and he like didn't tell me the details, but he's like, we let Lindsay go, and you're up next. He said, "You're up, kid." And he like really, it was like one of those things where I was driving either back to the gym or home from practice, and it was just like really caught off guard. I was like, "Yeah, it's a Friday, it's a Thursday, whatever. Like I'm gonna chill." And he's like, "Yeah," and I started crying. I started crying because I was like so excited, and I was like, this is literally everything that I want. This is everything that I signed up for. It's just happening way faster than I thought, and in a different circumstance. Like I cried because I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm not ready. Like I have never wrestled before. I don't know what I'm doing, and now I have this like amazing, huge opportunity to debut on TV, and I don't even know what to wear. I don't even, and I was bartending to make a living to support myself before I got signed
Hmm.
by WWE. So I didn't have a ton of money. I was obviously supporting myself, and then I left that to go train at FCW, and I had a developmental contract that was paying me, but it wasn't a lot. So like
Hmm.
I didn't really have money to go buy the things that I was thinking that I needed to be on TV. So that was part of the conversation. I was like, I feel like I'm on the phone with Johnny A still. And I'm like, I don't know what to wear. Like, I don't have wrestling boots. Like, I was just like, I need to get my hair highlighted. I need to get my nail, all these things. And so he told me to, he was like, I'm gonna let Dr. Tom know, and he told me to go back to FCW, and they were gonna give me $1,000 petty cash out of the safe. So I go to this school, and they give me $1,000, and they're like, go buy Diva stuff. Just go to the mall, buy Diva stuff. Oh my God, it was like the hardest thing I've ever done, because I'm like, I don't know what that is for me. Like I don't even know what I want to wear in the ring as like a like a performer or a superstar or anything like that. So I was just like, the whole process, I was just like freaking out, and very, very emotional. I called AJ. She was like really excited for me, and she was like, I got you. I'll help you. I know this is like a really scary thing. And we had already become friends very early on, and so I was really grateful to have her. And also, like, all the girls, most of the girls were the same way too, that I was going up with. They were like, we're a team, like, I got you. It was very different from what the main roster was, which I found out later. But like the six of us that started with NXT season 3, where it was like a vibe, like we all kind of had each other's back, and we were like, we're in this together, even though we knew that only one of us was going to win. So that felt really good. But this is really funny. So I'm very, like, my style to me is like kind of like a little bit military, like a little bit of, it's like a kind of got an edge. And so I wanted to buy clothes that represented that. So I bought this like really cool army green dress, and it had like black mesh, like it was a little bit different. And I was like, this is going to be the dress that I wear my first time on TV. And so that, like, everything happened. It was the day that the show was going to debut on a Tuesday in Baltimore, and I get dressed, and I forget who it was, but it was somebody that essentially had to approve what we were wearing, and she told me that I couldn't wear the dress that I bought. So I literally ended up, they were like, it's not like the diva look. So I literally ended up debuting my first time ever on TV for NXT in Naomi's dress, her sparkly pink dress that I literally would never have worn in my life, like, ever, by choice. So it was just like funny that, like, that's how things started like that, because I also really didn't know how to have a voice in any of this yet, like, where I'd be like, no, this isn't my style. I was just like, whatever. So it all happened like so fast. It was just like a blur. It was such a blur.
So, how was your time during that filming of NXT season 3? And was it hard to be a diva the way that they wanted you to be a diva?
Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. I was really trying to understand how to, like, play the game, like how to do it, how to be it, like how to understand these, like, unwritten rules that, because what I found out is that it was almost easier to be on camera than it was to be backstage.
Hmm.
Because, like, there's all these expectations of just like unwritten things of the culture with wrestling, and like the hierarchy and the power dynamics. And I was like really just thrust into that. I had never experienced anything like that. I had grown up in sports where there was like a lot of camaraderie, a lot of teamwork, a lot of like, I got you, you got me type thing. And then getting into the whole WWE culture, it was very shocking to me in terms of like some of the way that the locker room was. Like the women that were there already, besides a few who are so near and dear to my heart, there were people there that were leading. To me, it wasn't leading, but were leading in a way that it didn't align with like my values, and I feel
Hmm.
like it didn't align with like the values of the girls that I came up with in NXT. And so we had a really hard time kind of like meshing that and like trying to really get acceptance and respect from the girls that were already there. Again, like there were really amazing ones. Like Beth was always amazing. The twins were really, really great. Natty, but then so I struggled a lot, and I didn't have a ton of confidence in myself because I was so new at
Hmm.
everything. Like I knew I had talent. I knew I had skills that were being created and refined. I knew I had like the willpower and the grit. Like I just know that about myself, but there was all these other things that I didn't know that I was trying to learn, and not only in ring but backstage. And
Hmm.
so it was very, very difficult, but like I loved a challenge. Like I was like, every day I would have to tell myself, like, this is literally what I signed up for. This is what I asked for. This is what I want. And it's like, I just have to be able to meet the challenges every day that I'm here. And there was like so many days that I wanted to quit because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I feel like and there was times I really embarrassed myself on TV during matches because I didn't know how to wrestle. And so I would be like really down on myself, really hard on myself, judge myself a lot for it because
Hmm.
I'm like, God, I look so stupid, and things that I just didn't know. And I didn't know a lot about so the thing with NXT is that it was like reality based elimination show. So there was voting, there was audience involvement. And then there also was like they would give us the card for the show and they were like essentially like this is the way the show's gonna go. And so we knew who was wrestling. There was usually like 2 matches. So we knew who we were working with to put together the match, who our agent was, and then sometimes they would tell us what the challenges were, and sometimes they would just like surprise us live. So it was always like this really like
Hmm.
ooh scary feeling, and then it kind of became this whole thing where like what's his name? Michael Cole would just like shit all over us, like on the, and it was like this really like bullying thing that
Hmm.
was happening. And I know there's like a way to handle that, a way to like move through that with grace and still come out the other side like being better. And I knew there was a lesson in that, and I tried really hard to continue to look at it all as like this one big, amazing, massive opportunity for me, which it was. And I'll always look at it like that. But there was definitely days where like I cried a lot, or I'd like comment. My brother was really there for me. I'd be like, "Oh my God, I want to quit," and he'd be like, "Don't fucking quit, don't quit." Uh, and so it was. And then the travel too. Like I had no idea what the travel was going to be like. So we were they were bringing us, if there was a pay-per-view, we'd go to the pay-per-view, then we would go to the raw, the live raw show, and then we would go to the SmackDown taping. So we would, be on the road for 3 days, sometimes four, and then eventually afterwards, like I started doing the live events too. But so sometimes there would be like a 4 or 5 hour drive in between where Raw was and SmackDown was. So I struggled a lot with having a routine to keep myself physically and mentally and emotionally like fit. Like
Hmm.
I felt like I was all over the place and I didn't know how to like really process all these like really expansive things that were happening. Like, having a really cool moment on television and then having my friends and family reach out to me and be like, holy shit, and like these experiences, and then these like really low moments where maybe feeling like bullied in the locker room or feeling like I didn't know how to speak up for myself or felt really dumb or whatever it is. And it's like there was this massive spectrum of like, whoa, amazing, and then like, God, that's like, how do I move through this type thing? And so there was just like so much to process. And I was always traveling with one of the girls. Usually it was AJ, sometimes it was more than her. We would all have that. We would A lot of times we would share a car, and then like two of us to a room.
Hmm.
But so I never really had the ability to give myself like the alone time that I needed to really just like go within and like process everything that
Hmm.
was happening and deciding like, who do you want to be? How do you want to do this? I didn't know how to do that. So I felt really like all over the place a lot of time, really in my head, and just really like hard on myself, which didn't necessarily serve me that well. Obviously, like it got me through.
Hmm.
Something worked, but looking back now, I it was an incredibly difficult time um, to like try to ground and
Hmm.
connect to myself, really understand like what is my mission here, what's my message, what am I doing, like what's the bigger picture of all this. I just didn't know how to connect to those things, but I wanted that.
Hmm.
So I really really struggled. I gained a lot of weight too in that time period of like um, originally starting out like day one NXT to the end, and then getting everything that happened after that. I struggled a lot. I wasn't sleeping in a really positive way. Like didn't have a routine, and I wasn't eating in the way that I had always been eating. And so just a lot of external change really, my body
Hmm.
really had a difficult time adjusting to that. So I was like, oh, it was like a roller
Hmm.
coaster the whole time.
Everything happened so quickly for you, and then
Yeah.
this was pre WWE focusing like on, I feel like, on women's wrestling. So when you say like some of these struggles backstage, was it people just thought you were taking their spot because there was only so much TV time that they like back then it wasn't a focal point, and I didn't understand why, like, because I enjoy women's wrestling, I enjoy wrestling, and just seemed like they had a like a quote to meet sometimes, and they needed so many
Mm.
women on TV, but then they wouldn't focus on women's wrestling really. So did it feel like the people that were already there, like they just like, oh, this new girl's coming up, and she's going to take
Yeah.
our TV time.
Totally. Which I get. I
Hmm.
totally get it. Like I understand, but I think like as I've had all of this time to really
Hmm.
grow into who I am, now like I understand the type of leadership that is required to be able to really influence a locker room, to really inspire somebody new to take creative risks, to really just be who they are. Because I understand that a rising tide raises all ships. So if somebody is excelling and creating like a pocket of interest for people to really be like, damn, women's wrestling is dope. Like I'm interested in this story.
Hmm.
Like I'm interested in what's happening. Like if one person is given the spotlight or the opportunity to create that, then all of us come behind that. All of us get that opportunity to step in when the time is right. If we're stepping up to the plate and being willing to take creative risks, being willing to put yourself out there to, you know, do the thing and then ask for forgiveness later instead of
Hmm.
asking for permission at the beginning. And but there was such a energy of lack and fear there. So it was very cutthroat. Like the women that were at the top were like, I don't want to lose my spot. I'm gonna, have to be this way. And what I faced a lot is people feeling like I didn't deserve to be there, like I didn't earn it, I
Hmm.
didn't pay my dues, which I understand. Like I do, I get that. There are people there that have been watching wrestling their whole lives, been wrestling since they were a kid, like, been to 100 live events, all those things. And I deeply respect that because that's how my relationship is with fitness,
Hmm.
so like I understand the parallel of that and like how it really becomes a part of you. But I I had a hard time really admitting this to myself, but I'm like, I'm here because I deserve to be here.
Hmm.
And there was a lot of times where I would be like, maybe I just was in the right place at the right time. Maybe I'm just lucky, or maybe it's because like they think I'm pretty, and I would sell myself short in a lot of ways when I was feeling really down on myself for not having the skill that I wanted to have or not having the voice to speak up in certain circumstances. But at that time, like I didn't know how to lead a locker room. Like I
Hmm.
didn't know what that looked like. I knew that what was happening there wasn't right. It didn't align with my values and what I believe to be true. But I didn't know how to make a difference. I didn't know how to change anything. And I was like really afraid of more bullying. I was
Hmm.
afraid of, getting fired or saying the wrong thing. And so it really was like that where, in a 3 hour show, maybe there's like one women's match and then like one backstage where one of us gets featured for 5 seconds, So it was like this perpetual cycle where if there was an opportunity for there to be more than one women's match or more than one or two people to shine, the people at the top, the women at the top, didn't necessarily like that because again, it was like that threat of, well, am I going to lose my spot? Am I going to lose my relevancy?
Hmm.
And age was a really huge thing too. Like because they want the younger, like newer, fresher, and so I think that really got to a lot of the women that were a little bit older.
Hmm.
And now I have such a different perspective. Like I feel so much different about like what aging really is and like, how you can live your life in a way that is very conducive to uh, aging gracefully or still being able to perform at a high level no matter how old you are, right? So it wasn't really, that wasn't really the mentality
Hmm.
then. So it was very difficult, and I that was like a big thing that contributed to the days where I was like, I kind of want to quit, because like I'm like, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to speak up for myself in a way that won't create problems later
Hmm.
on, or will I'll feel uncomfortable in the locker room or whatever. So it was definitely a very challenging dynamic there in that way because of the way things were at that time, where just there wasn't a lot of focus on the talent and the
Hmm.
skills and the capabilities of the women.
Now, during all of this, were you still going back to FCW when you weren't on the road, or was it just full time with on the road?
Yeah, I was doing both for like 6 or 7 months or maybe more, where I was like, so I really learned how to wrestle at the FCW shows and on the live events for SmackDown. So I won NXT, and I didn't get like a big push or even a debut on SmackDown or Raw because I wasn't ready. Like they're
Hmm.
like, we don't really know what to do with you. And so I was just like, okay, like I get it. So I kind of just like fell in kind of into the background, and I was like in this interim purgatory type
Hmm.
of thing where I was traveling with everyone. I was going to all the TVs. Sometimes I would get booked for the live events to be a ring announcer or like a host for something during
Hmm.
the midway point. Um, and then I was also going back to school to do the shows like when I could or practice. I didn't really go to that many practices because I was so dead. I was so tired all the
Hmm.
time just from everything on the road. But anytime like that I would have an opportunity to make one of the local FCW shows, they would book me because they knew I needed the experience. And I just needed ring time like that because that's how you get better is like you
Hmm.
just do it, do it, do it, do it. So yeah, and I actually didn't mind it because I was like, what else am I going to be doing?
Hmm.
Because you don't really, if I'm in my off time, I was either like sleeping or training
Hmm.
or getting ready to go back on the road again. So I'm like, what else am I going to do? So it really filled my time and I didn't really have time in my life for anything else. Like it was really hard to have a relationship. It was really hard to, have any other hobbies. Like it was just interesting. Um, so yeah, I was always it was so much wrestling so fast that I feel like it helped me a lot just obviously in the ring, but obviously like more so just understanding what it is and why people are so connected to it and why people are so loyal in terms of like being a fan or why they
Hmm.
love wrestling so much. I just started to understand all that on such a deeper level and understanding like what the bond is between kids and their parents that go together and just like really that type of thing. And I feel like you get to really experience that during those local live events because
Hmm.
you don't have to worry about it, the hard cam and all the cameras. Like you get to really engage with the fans and the audience, and that was really what I loved that a lot. I really loved that part.
So how long after winning NXT before they finally decided what they were going to do with you? It's almost like it's tough enough. You won. Now it's like we can't just put you immediately on TV. So how long? What was the time frame before winning NXT to when you were on like national TV, like permanently?
Um, so I would say maybe like a year. So what I was doing is I was like writing different script ideas
Hmm.
to for storylines, and I had started writing a storyline. I think Booker T was like the general manager of SmackDown or something, and I was like more so on the SmackDown roster. So, or I was always traveling with SmackDown. And so I started writing this storyline where I was going to be the assistant to the GM, and it was like I was kind of like fighting Eve for this spot, and Eve was like always like Eve was like a down ass bitch. I love Eve. Like she helped me so much. Like she's like such a wonderful person, and I really look up to her in a lot of ways. And she was really good to me. And so we had like we were kind of talking about that, and I was like writing it and it was gaining a little bit of momentum where Eve and I were having some backstages, setting up like a match, setting up all the stuff. And the day that with the way it was written, the day that her and I were supposed to have this match, I was supposed to win and get the assistant to the general manager's position. Like, and I was like so excited, and I was like, yes, finally, like I'm gonna have like a main spot. So it was either Booker T or Teddy. I think it was Booker T. Anyway, so me and Eve are out in the ring, and I had done like a photo shoot for the magazine at that time where I was dressed as the Ultimate Warrior. So I had like full Ultimate Warrior outfit on, like the armbands, like face paint, and I was like feeling so good because I'm like, yeah, like I'm finally gonna get my debut. And our writer Tom comes out and he's like, I'm so sorry, Vince just changed this, but Eve is gonna get the spot. And it was just like that. So Eve ended up getting, I think we didn't even have the match or something, and Eve ended up getting the position. And I was like, damn, like there was so many things like that where it was so close where I was going to almost get it, almost get it, almost get it. And then I didn't get it. And it was crazy because I had written that whole storyline and it was like for me. And then Vince gave it to Eve. And it's like, I couldn't be mad at her because I know it's not her. And she's like so gorgeous and talented and wonderful. So I get it, but I was just like really bummed. So a couple weeks after that, I was at Raw there was like this massive Raw women's battle royal, and Finley came back that night. He had been gone for like a year
Hmm.
for he got suspended or something, and he came back that day, and I was standing in Gorilla, just like chilling, and the doors had already been opened, and we had the card for the show and for our match, and it was all the roster, it was everybody in the ring, and the winner was supposed to be getting a title shot. Layla had the title at the time, and Eve was supposed to be the one to win. Eve and Layla were gonna have a storyline, and I was gonna be eliminated probably second or third,
Hmm.
just really early on in the match. And so Fitz sees me and he gives me a hug and he was like, and he like I think like the first thing he said to me is like, "Why aren't you on TV yet?" And I was like, "Damn, I don't know." And so he like takes the card and he fucking, sorry, excuse my language.
You're fine.
He scribbles this shit out, and he was like, "You have a storyline with Eve right now, right?" And so I guess he had like known that had been building. So we had a little bit of storytelling on TV over the last like 6 weeks, and so he was like, "You're gonna be in there last with Eve." So I was like, "Oh my god, the girls are gonna murder me! Like they're gonna think like But I was so excited because that was like the biggest moment so far of my career, being like in there down to just me and Eve in a battle royal live on Raw for a title shot, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So we go through the whole match, and so the ref is Brad Maddox. This is the first ever live match that he had done on Raw, right? So the spot was where I was gonna hit the ropes, clothesline Eve over the top. She was gonna hang on and pull me out and eliminate
Hmm.
me, and she was gonna be last one standing. So I go to clothesline her, and I didn't hit, like the physics were off. Like I hit her, but she didn't flip over. So we had to reset up the spot. And so when I went, after we reset it, I came and I hit her so hard that she fell off. She flipped over and she got eliminated. And I was like, and I was just like, like every thought that you could have, like just, and it was like one of the most incredible moments of my life because there's nothing that could ever be like that again, right? Like it's like a once lifetime thing. And so Brad has the mic in his ear, and they're like telling him to celebrate, to grab my hand to celebrate. So he's like, he grabs my hand, and you can see it in both of our eyes. We're like, oh my god! So I'm just like, it was like the most true underdog win of a lifetime, right? And so the lights go down, we go to commercial, and I have to walk back to Gorilla. So I'm like, am I going to get fired? Am I going to get yelled at? Like, what is this? And so first I go through a Gorilla, and Eve is crying, which I get, like the whole spot got messed up. She's crying. Vince is laughing. Vince is standing up laughing. So I was like, oh my God, thank God, And so our writer, Tom, comes up to me. And he was like, with me this whole time as I've been trying to get on the show and helping me submit these storylines and stuff. And he's like, I'm gonna go write you into this right now. Like he was so pumped, and he was like, the other girls are already coming to me, because he was like the women's writer, and he's like, they're already coming to me to get you written out of this shit. And he was like, don't worry, I'm gonna try really hard. Like you deserve this, whatever. And so it was crazy backstage. Like there were certain people that I was like really tight with, that like, the people like want to see you do good, that don't
Hmm.
hate on you because you're doing good and they're not, or whatever. They were like, I got so many hugs that were like, I'm so happy that this happened to you. Like you deserve it. And then there were some people that were like, not so cool about it. Literally people going to try to get me
Hmm.
written out of it because like I didn't deserve the opportunity or whatever. And so it was from that I ended I did like a triple threat title match or something with Eve and Layla. Like it was like I did all these like really cool matches with them, and then Eve eventually won the title, and then Eve and I had a really cool title, a really cool storyline for the title, and then I won the title from her when she retired in my hometown of Houston, Texas.
Hmm.
So that all transpired from that one, like Fit coming back and being like nope, and like crossing all the names and then putting me in there, and then like it's like you couldn't even make that up, like it was one of those moments where I was just like, holy shit, like I can't believe all that happened, and it literally led me to getting the title. It was so
Hmm.
cool.
So, was it like that the whole time for the journey to the title? Was there always someone trying to, you don't deserve this, we should change this, we should do this? Or did it, as time went on, did they start to at least accept it?
At first, yeah.
Yeah.
As time went on, like I got like more confidence and a little bit tougher skin and started to be more of who I am. That, you know, it just came with time, but there was that initially. And I think, you know, it was just part of it. Is part of it, having a thick skin and just kind of shutting out the noise and just being like, what do I want? Like, do
Hmm.
I want to do this? Do I want to make this happen? Do I want to, like, you know, make my mark? And I did. I really wanted to. What's crazy though is, you know, after Eve left, her and I had we did so many cool matches. Her and I had like the night, like 2 days before I won the title in Houston, her and I had like the most incredible singles match at Madison Square Garden. It was like
Hmm.
a live event, but it was like one of the highlights of my career. Like, we just did so many cool things. And when I did win the title, the kind of the like heat or the hotness of it, or like the, you know, like how cool it was, kind of
Hmm.
started to fade away. And then I didn't really have anything super significant. I think I had like a little bit of a storyline with Tamina. I loved wrestling her. She was always like really strong and physical, and I loved our matches, and we had a lot of like love and respect for each other. You know, once Eve was gone, um, it was her, Tamina and I pretty much wrestling like the live
Hmm.
events and stuff like that. But it kind of just like fizzled out a little bit, you know. And then when I AJ and I started having all of our feud and storyline stuff, that it definitely picked back up. But it was more towards the end of my title run. And, you know, the match where I lost the title to AJ at that pay-per-view, was the match of my career. Like, it
Hmm.
was, and for many reasons, but it was just so significant and like such a symbol of everything that I had gone through, everything that I had worked for. And to have that moment with her, you know, we were really close. We had gone through a lot together, and a lot behind closed doors, a lot of struggle, and for us to have that match and for it to feel the way that it felt and to have the outcome that it did have, it was like a dream come true. Like, it was, you know, the best match of my career. It's funny, the best match of my career is when I was losing the title, but it was just so significant,
Hmm.
especially for her to be winning the title, you know, after her whole story and how, you know, what wrestling is for her and the impact she's had on the industry. So it was just like so valuable, such a highly valuable moment in my life. Um, but after I lost the title, you know, well, during that, like, again, like, my weight fluctuated
Hmm.
for the, you know, 3.5, 4 years I was there. And towards the end of my title run, you know, having the title again, this is like just like the same thing with competing. Like, it didn't fulfill me in the way that I had hoped for it to fulfill me. Like, I was seeking something, just like how I was seeking in, you know, well, winning and bodybuilding give me this feeling. And it was kind of that same thing with, well, having the title give me this feeling of, um, you know, self-acceptance, like love for myself, feeling pride, feeling actual success. And it did in ways, but it wasn't like that deep feeling that I was looking for. And so I got really depressed from that. I was
Hmm.
like, well, then if not this, what? You know, like, what is it that I'm looking for? What is it that's going to fulfill this aspect of me that feels unfulfilled or empty or, you know, needing something? And so that was like a bit kind of like an awakening for me, that like, man, all of this like glitz and glam and TV and making more money and having the title and getting respect and all these things, like, it didn't give me that deep
Hmm.
feeling of satisfaction that I really wanted. And that felt sad. It made me sad. It made me feel depressed. And I began to like think of like other things, like, what do I want to do with my life? Like, if it's not this, then what? And then like realizing that I really didn't want to have the lifestyle of living on the road like
Hmm.
that. Like, I knew for me it was cool for a period of time, but I didn't want to end up doing that for like, you know, 10 years, 15 years, or more. And that, you know, that wasn't necessarily the route that I wanted. And so I started, just having a lot of inner conflict, and my body was expressing that. Like, again, like, I was gaining weight again. Like, I felt like I didn't have control over like kind of the way my skin looked and stuff. And it was just like that. My outer appearance was really expressing what was going on internally, that internal struggle.
Hmm.
And so eventually, um, you know, I asked for my release, and it was funny. Like, I had the title, um, during WrestleMania of 2013, but I didn't have a spot.
Hmm.
on the show at all, nothing. And that was like, I wasn't like, "Moo," like, "Why don't I have a spot?" I was just like, "Man, like I have the title, the women's title, and I don't even have a spot on WrestleMania or in any capacity." And they were launching Total Divas that day too. So I was just like, "Damn, like this I didn't like it."
Yeah.
I just didn't like it. And it wasn't like I was like hating on the girls that were a part of it because like for whatever reason I wasn't a part of Total Divas. And it wasn't like a thing like that where I'm like it's you guys. It was more like I was starting to see that maybe like I just didn't really align or fit in the whole world of this. And
Hmm.
um, so like that was a big thing that kind of like was pushing me away from wrestling. And then after I lost the title and was going through like weight gain and stuff, and the office had actually pulled me aside and be like, what's going on, like, you need to lose a few pounds. And I was just like, I'm trying. And so it was really hard. And yeah, then so my first husband, who I divorced, we were married for a short time. I met him during that time, so I was like in a really low place. He actually had been helping me with diet and like some nutritional stuff earlier on, like the year before that, and I had some success with that. And yeah, we started dating really fast, got engaged. And so when we got engaged, it was the fall of 2013, and I asked for my release the very beginning of 2014, so January 2014. So it's like whenever we got engaged, I was like, well, maybe this is next for me. Like,
Hmm.
and I knew I didn't want to just leave and not do anything. I wanted to start a business, which I did. But it was all like it was, looking back, I was really just running from this feeling of inadequacy, this feeling of like feeling not fulfilled. And when I left, like I was sad to leave, but I was also like, I don't understand what this is to me. Like I don't understand how to keep doing it, how to play the game and to be happy on the inside. So I left with I had just resigned. I done my first 3-year contract. I had just resigned, and so I still had like 2 years left on my contract when I asked for my release in early 2014. And I just was like super quiet about it because like it took me a long time to really process all of it,
Hmm.
and just everything that happened in such a short time.
So after your release, you said you started your business and you got married and engaged. Was it still a scary time trying to figure out what was next? Like trying to figure out
Totally.
because it seems like you don't sit down for very long. You're always on the go.
True.
So when you're not on the road, was it did that affect your mental health too? Because you didn't, or was you were that always that busy outside of WWE?
It definitely affected my. It was a very
Hmm.
big change from going to. And I didn't really think about this. I was 23, or no, I was 27 at this time when I left. Um, but I didn't really think about the impact that was going to have on me going from this amazing lifestyle. Yes, it was difficult and it required a lot out of you, but traveling the world, wrestling in Egypt, like
Hmm.
wrestling in South Africa, all these amazing places, um, and getting to travel and meet so many cool people and do so many cool things and make money doing it, and like, and then not having that, like it's like such a huge, it's like you flip a switch, right? So I went from that lifestyle to, I quickly moved to my first husband was in South Florida, and so I went back home to Houston for a little bit, and then I ended up just going to South Florida where he was, and started my business out of like our spare bedroom in a condo, and eventually like we got a house and I had some more space and stuff, but it was really strange, like going from traveling the world and being
Hmm.
on, however many planes a week to trying to start a business in a bedroom.
Hmm.
It was like a big identity thing where I was just like, who am I? Like, what do I want? Is this even what I want? Am I capable of um, having a business, like growing a business? Like, can I do this? And so it was like this huge crisis in a way of like, just I think I needed a lot of time to like just settle my emotions in my
Hmm.
mind and to really like think about things. But it was really hard to do that because my first husband, like he had a lot of work he needed to do on himself too. We
Hmm.
both did. And so when we got married about 6 months after I left WWE, and so it really wasn't a lot of time to get to know somebody.
Hmm.
And I didn't even know myself. I did not even know myself. I was just like in my mind, I'm like just the programming of like this is what you just do next. Like you get
Hmm.
married, and for me that obviously it was my path. It is my life path, but um, I really just like, okay, well, this is next on the list, and this person, like, I guess this is him, and we struggled a lot, and I really, really struggled with mental health a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. And the one thing that always helped me is staying connected to fitness, going to the gym, training, doing different types of training, trying different things, to stimulate my body and my mind, and to
Hmm.
also express like the emotions that come up from like just the inner conflict that I did have. I started going to therapy. I'm a huge advocate of therapy.
Hmm.
I've probably had 4 or 5 different therapists in my life that have all significantly and substantially helped me in different ways based on what they really
Hmm.
specialized in, or the work that we did together. Um, and like I really spent I'm 37, so when I left wrestling I was 27, so it's been about 10 years. Over the last 10 years I've done so much healing. So like I mentioned, therapy. I've learned different types of um, practices and things that help me understand myself in a different way, in a deeper way, and things that are tools and resources to process the emotional things that come up and happen just from life.
Hmm.
So I worked with a lot of coaches and mentors, learned different modalities, sound healing, all these different things I was exploring to try to heal all the things that had really become uprooted during that time
Hmm.
of wrestling, and especially the time when I was leaving. And these are things like that had been with me for my whole life, that things that shaped me as a kid, like the things that we go through as a kid that show you how to see the world and show you how to see yourself, like, and eventually you want to change those things when you have the awareness around them, and you're like, oh, I don't have to think about myself this way, or I don't have to see life this way. And so I started really like opening my eyes to all these different ways of thinking about things, and approaching and handling life in different ways. And so like I really, really over the last 10 years I've transformed myself from the inside out, really dealing with a lot of the things that were cultivated and created in my childhood
Hmm.
that I believe were a big reason the reason I for why I struggled the way that I did when I was with WWE. Because all the things that happened were external, these external things, but they were activating these internal
Hmm.
things in me that weren't healed. And so, like, insecurities, ways that I felt about myself were becoming activated through certain interactions I was having with people. But, now the person I have become and shaped myself to be knows how to handle those external things, to not allow them to,
Hmm.
it's because I'm untouchable on the inside now. I wasn't untouchable on the inside then. I let a lot of things rock me and shake me and knock me off my path. And so really the last 10 years has been this journey of creating that like rock solid inner foundation that I know no matter what, that like what I have within me and what I know to be true and who I know that I am is always going to be okay. I'm always going to know how to move through things regardless of how difficult they are. Like nothing else can ever make me second guess who I am
Hmm.
anymore, And that's like one of the biggest things that one of the biggest lessons I got from my wrestling experience is that, like, when I first got signed, so, I got advice from different people, and one of them was like, "Here, you need to read this book," and it was about like psychology, like dark psychology, learning how to get what you want and stuff. And I understood the principle of that, but there was like just a lot of these like dark ways of manipulating people that went on a lot, I think.
Hmm.
And this idea of like getting ahead and all this, which I'm totally for, but I like there was just things that didn't align with who I am then, that I just didn't know how to um meet. I didn't know how to meet those things. Now I do. I know who I am now. I know that like at the end of the day, when it comes down to having to make a choice about something very difficult, or um whatever, I know that I'll make the right choice according to me. Like I trust myself now, but I didn't trust myself then. And so that's like one of the biggest things I've learned, is that like you have to know who you are, and if you know who you are, you'll never you'll never fail. Like you'll
Hmm.
always make the choice that's best for you, regardless of what the people around you think. Like if they think that's the best choice or not, or
Hmm.
stupid or crazy, it's like when you trust yourself to do what's right, regardless of what anyone else thinks about it. Like that's like the ultimate ability to be grounded and connected to just like who you are, what you know to be true,
Hmm.
and that's something that is priceless to me. That's something that you can't buy. You can't uh, do the cliff notes to it. You literally have to go through the experiences that show you like who you are and who you want to be and how you want to show up every day, regardless of the bad stuff that happens or makes you feel like you don't know anything or
Hmm.
whatever, like those
Hmm.
things. Life is always coming, always
Hmm.
coming at you.
Now that you're wiser, you're older, you understand life. We saw you make a return to WWE a couple years ago. Is wrestling ever on your mind now? Like returning to the ring?
um I think it would be cool to do something at some point. Like I'm in the best shape ever physically now,
Like
and
the Royal
very,
Rumble?
very right. I I actually went, not last year, but the year before, I think, to the WWE had called me to come out. I ended up not doing anything on the show, but I'm open to it. Like, I think before, like, I had such an attachment to what wrestling has to be or what container it has to fit in. But now, like, I just see myself as like who I am. And so if there's ever an opportunity to go and do something really cool with, wrestling in some way, and it makes sense for me and it makes sense for my schedule, um, then I would so be down for it. Like
Mhm.
I, of course, need to, you know, brush up a little bit in the ring. I haven't been in the ring in a couple years, but like I'm at this stage in my life where I'm like, let's go, let's do it. So I would definitely be open to something like that. Definitely not don't have the chapter fully closed in terms of what I'll allow myself to,
Mhm.
you know, participate in or be a part of.
What are you doing these days? Life after wrestling.
So it's been quite a journey. When I originally left, I had mentioned I started a clothing business called Celestial Bodies, and when I was wrestling, towards the end of my career, I would have like the little booty scrunch, this like little piece of elastic sewn into the booty of my wrestling shorts, and it would just like be this really flattering process. And so I took that idea and I put it into women's leggings, and I patented it and trademarked it, and I came out with booty scrunch leggings. And so I did that for 7 years, and I had so much fun. And I was on Iron Man magazine cover a couple times. I really like dug my feet back into the fitness industry and really started to make a name for myself. And my first husband, he had a supplement company, so it was really cool. I grew a lot on social media and like the health and fitness space. And then in 2021, I started doing coaching. So
Mhm.
I started doing more like lifestyle coaching, um, and I was really learning what it is that I was teaching. I started out, I knew I could help people, mentor people, coach people, and I was doing it with my current husband now. We started this business together, coaching, and then so we coached together for about 3 years. And this past year, I actually created a methodology called the Body Alchemy Method. I learned a movement system about a year and a half ago that is designed to engage and release the fascia in your body, so all your connective tissue.
Mhm.
And I integrated that into my Body Alchemy Method. And so I teach a methodology that is so it's really based on opening and releasing the fascia in your body, which helps you on a mental, emotional, and physical level. And the methodology as a whole, when you integrate it into your life, it allows for the ease and flow of true life transformation. So it's really focused on optimal health, optimal lifestyle. But if you really integrate this methodology into your life, you can transform your life continuously. It's like a process of continuous alchemy, learning how to process the emotions in your body, learning how to open the connective tissue in your body, to shift your posture, to shift how you show up energetically into situations, to shift the way that you tap into your genius. So it's very, very fulfilling. And I right now I do it on I have a mentorship. So I do individual mentorship, and then there's also a group aspect to learn the curriculum of the movement that I teach.
Hmm.
And I'm also right now working on a subscription platform. So you'll be able to get all of the foundational principles of what I teach in an app, and be able to piece all the different parts together to kind of create your own algorithm for your own daily success, like how you set up your day, the flow of your day. And this is super fast, but there's like 5 elements to that, or 5 principles. It's learning how to use the elements to integrate my little thumbs up, learning how to use the 5 elements to really shape and create a morning routine that's very foundational for you. And then I teach, one of them is dynamic movement. So the movement flows I teach to engage and release the fascia. One of them is fitness. I'll be offering level 1 and level 2 workouts every quarter. So every 3 months you'll have new workouts. I also offer a little portal for inspiration, so different ways that you can continuously stay inspired on a daily basis. And then what's the last one? Oh, holistic self-care. So I teach things like holistic skincare, hair care, things that just help you really combat the signs of aging in a graceful way. So it's really, really cool. I'm super excited about it. I think I'm going to launch. My goal is to launch this membership that I'm talking about in October for my 38th birthday. So that's what I'm working on now, and it's super fun, and I'm loving every part of it.
Where can people reach out to you at?
So anything and everything right now, my Instagram, which is my name, Celeste Bonin. Also, I have more information about what I do on my website, which is shinewithceleste.com.
If you had any advice giving it to people getting into professional wrestling, what would it be?
So I think this is for anyone getting into anything that is challenging, that's going to push you on mental, physical, emotional, spiritual level, that to be anchored and grounded to who you are, like what you want. Like at the end of the day, why are you doing this? Like if it is wrestling, why are you doing it? Like what's the vision? What's the dream? What do you want to feel? Like what is your impact? What's your legacy? And when you know that, and you can have the emotions in your body of that vision, like you can trust yourself in the process of learning wrestling, of learning the artwork, of learning everything that has to go with it, whether it's like something that's extremely challenging and you're like, can I do this? Can I do this? If you know who you are and you know why you're doing it, you can do it. Or if it's something where you're like questioning your values or your morals, or if you're choosing the right thing, if you know who you are, ultimately you're going to choose what's right for you. So anything that you're learning that's expanding who you are and how you see the world, if you can anchor to not what you know to be true, but what you know who you are, and that's a
Hmm.
feeling, right? So that will always guide you, especially if you're stepping into a world that is unfamiliar, that is something different, that makes you think, that makes you question the things that you think you know. If you are connected to who you are, at the end of the day, you'll always find success. Always, always.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you for taking time to come out today, talk a little bit about your career. Thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do. It's been an honor to be able to sit down and talk a little bit today.
Same. Thank you so much for having me on. You are an excellent host, great energy. I feel so good about this. I feel I'm going to have a great rest of my day after this interview. So thank you so much for taking the time and inviting me out as well.
Thank you. And if there's ever anything that I could ever do, please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you have such an awesome day today.
Thank you. You too.